I put 10 of the tallest players in NBA history into one draft, and I gave them all 99 potential. So whichever teams end up landing these players are going to have future superstars on their hands, and they're going to be super tall. Sometimes we don't see these really tall guys pan out and become stars, but that's going to be different today. With the first overall pick, the Spurs select Victor Wembanyama. At second, the Wizards are going to take Yao Ming. At 3, the Pistons take Chuck Nevitt. Not really too familiar with his game, but they go ahead and draft him. And the Charlotte Hornets make a mistake. They trade their pick to the Utah Jazz. If only they knew, they could have drafted 7'5" Simbular, who has 99 potential. At number 7, the Orlando Magic draft Sean Bradley, and then we didn't see anybody selected for a while. So I went ahead and simulated the draft, and eventually our guys got picked. Manute Bol went 17th to the Los Angeles Lakers, Boban went 22nd to the Portland Trail Blazers, and Mark Eaton went 23rd to the Kings. George Muresan went 24th to the Pacers, and we only have one second-round draft pick. That was Taco Fall, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. So let's go ahead and let's get into the end of season number 1, because it's going to take quite some time for a lot of these guys to develop. Simbular, though, exploded onto the scene in his first year. I didn't expect him to win Rookie of the Year over Wembanyama, but he somehow did it. It's not like he's a super high overall either, but he made All-NBA third team as a 77 overall. I don't think I've ever seen a player this low of an overall make All-NBA teams, and he also made the All-Defensive team. That's a super surprising, oh my gosh, that voice crack was crazy. That was a super surprising development in this first season. And looking at some of the stats for our guys, we actually saw quite a few players not really get much run. Taco Fall didn't even end up getting picked up by a team. And ignore the fact that there's 2 tacos. One's the one from real life, but I put him at a 40, so he should be retiring soon. Yao Ming had a really good rookie season. Simbular, of course, you all saw what he was doing. Wembanyama was solid. Mark Eaton, he was not eating at all, bro. He was not cooking. There's the old Boban. And then the Boban who got drafted this year didn't get any run for the Portland Trail Blazers. So it's going to take some time, but remember, these guys have 99 potential, so eventually we should see them really playing great basketball and having roles with their teams. For season number 1, we don't really have much to follow in the NBA playoffs. The only guy who's even still around for the second round of the playoffs is Manute Bol, but he's coming off the bench for the Los Angeles Lakers, and they end up losing in 7. So not too much interesting in season number 1 for the playoffs, but give it a couple seasons once our guys start to reach their potential. Once Taco Fall finds a roster, man, my goodness, he can't even find a team, but hopefully he will soon. Once these guys start to reach their potential, they're going to be crazy. I mean, Simbular, he made an All-NBA team in his first season as a 79 overall. Imagine once he starts increasing in overall, he could be really dominant in this video. Luka Doncic is the MVP, but I think eventually our bigs will start taking over that MVP race. Scoot Henderson is Rookie of the Year because I put in the 2023 draft minus Wembanyama so that we could still have that draft class after we put our tall guys in the league. No All-NBA in year number 2 for any of our bigs, which is surprising because, you know, Simbular made All-NBA in his first season, but he did make All-Defensive, and his numbers were up across the board. Over 16 rebounds a game for Simbular this season. And looking at some of the stats from our other guys, there was big improvement from Manute Bol, although his efficiency was garbage, and I don't really know why. It's not like he was taking a ton of threes, but he was shooting like 37% from the field around there, which is terrible. Hopefully that'll improve. George Muresan got no type of run. We saw Sean Bradley enter the rotation for the Magic, and he was okay. Taco Fall found a job. Yao Ming, he had a really good season for the Washington Wizards. Big improvements across the board for him. We've already kind of looked at Simbular. We might as well call him Himbular because he is hooping. And Chuck Nevitt kind of regressed in year 2. Wemby made a big improvement in year 2. Mark Eaton, he was eating, almost averaging a double-double for the Sacramento Kings. And then Boban Marjanovic, he found his way into the rotation for Portland and was actually really good. Almost 16 points a game for that team. So really good stuff from both of those guys. But I'm kind of annoyed that the old Boban and old Taco are still in the league. So I made them 40. So hopefully they retire. Because it's kind of confusing when you're scrolling through and you see 2 Tacos and 2 Bobans. But none of our guys even made it into the second round this year, which is pathetic considering I put 10 of the tallest players into this league, and yet none of them could even make it. Just terrible, man. I don't know what's going on with our guys, but hopefully this potential starts hitting soon, because y'all are doing terrible. What is going on? And Manute Bol's starting to see big progression. George Mearson, he's only at a 78 right now, but Sean Bradley, he's up to an 83. Taco's up to a 75. Yao Ming's an 87. Simbular's an 81. Chuck Nevitt is an 80. Wemby is a 91. Mark Eaton is a 77. Boban's up to an 83. So some good progression going into year number 3, but there's definitely still room to improve for a lot of these guys. Ben Simmons is on the Warriors now, winning 6th Man of the Year. That's kind of interesting, I guess. And Yao Ming, he makes the leap onto an All-NBA team. Good stuff from Yao. The second guy we've seen make All-NBA. He was also on the All-Defensive First team, so a really big season for him. At only the age of 21, he is absolutely hooping. And checking out the NBA standings, we actually saw some of our guys really hooping this year. Check out Victor Wembanyama. He teamed up with Jason Tatum, and they're the 2nd seed. Boban's on the 3-seeded Blazers. Manute Bol is on the 4-seeded Los Angeles Lakers. So a lot of good stuff from these bigs. Hopefully we can finally see some playoff success from our guys this season. And checking out the Eastern Conference, we did also see some of our bigs hooping out there as well. For the Pistons, there was Chuck Nevitt. For the Orlando Magic, Sean Bradley was coming off of their bench, and the Magic did end up making the NBA playoffs. So we are seeing our guys start to enter championship contention as we move forward in these seasons. And then just to check out the season stats from our guys, Manute Bol had another really good season. His numbers are starting to improve in terms of efficiency. George Mearson's efficiency was terrible. Taco Fall was really good for the Toronto Raptors, considering he's only a 76 so far. Simbular had another huge season for the Utah Jazz. Chuck Nevitt made the jump to averaging over 10 a game. Wemby was kind of stagnant with his stats, but he was playing alongside Tatum. And then looking at Boban, he's been playing some really good basketball, and the Blazers are actually competing as contenders. So Boban is making a huge impact for that team as their starting center. We're going to quickly go through the first round, and then we'll focus in on some of these second round matchups. We do have the Spurs versus the Blazers, which is Wemby versus Boban. So that's a pretty cool matchup. And then out east, none of our guys are really playing there. This is really the only matchup that we have to tune into. But regardless of who wins, one of our guys will be making the conference finals. And it's going to be Wembanyama in a sweep. A huge series for Wemby. I mean, Boban was great in the NBA playoffs, elevating his game to an even higher level, but Wembanyama was just too much. I mean, his supporting cast is really good. He's playing alongside Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis, so you wouldn't really expect Boban to be able to take them down just yet, but maybe once he progresses a little bit more, we could see him do something crazy. But let's see if Wembanyama can get past the Thunder to get an NBA championship. He's down 3-0, so it's not looking good, but the Spurs do take 2 games, and we're headed to a Game 7. Can Wemby pull off the 3-0 comeback? Yes, he can. Victor Wembanyama pulls off a 3-0 comeback and is now going to be advancing to the NBA Finals. Jason Tatum is the team leader for this squad, as he's a little bit better than Victor Wembanyama, but hey, Wemby's hooping 35 points in the closeout game, and now we're headed to the finals where the Charlotte Hornets, who remember traded that 5th pick, are now in the NBA Finals. They're going to take game 1. The Spurs are going to go ahead and tie it up and then take the next game, but the Hornets bounce back, setting up a pivotal game 5 with the series tied. And ultimately, the Hornets are going to get out of there winning by, is that 16 points? I think so. LaMelo Ball just put up a 50-point triple-double to drop us off. I don't know what you're really supposed to do about that. And looking at the ridiculous scoring, yeah, the league did decrease the shot clock. But you know what? We're going to let it rock. We'll go ahead and have some inflated stats. We're headed to a game 7 here. And can the Spurs pull this one off? Yes, they can, capping off a legendary run where they pulled off a 3-0 comeback in the conference finals. Victor Wembanyama is going to get an NBA championship. Now, Jason Tatum is the finals MVP, but Wemby was pivotal. He had that really big game 7 against the Thunder, and now we're headed into season number 4, where we're seeing our guys all take a really big leap. Chuck Nevitt's up to an 85, Wemby's a 96, Mark Eaton's an 82, Boban's an 87. The guys are really starting to get a lot better as we head into this next season. So hopefully we can see some guys making a big impact, and it looks like we're going to, because Yao and Wemby are both all-stars for the first times in their NBA careers. They make the all-star team, so it looks like we've got a lot to look forward to as we head into these NBA playoffs. LaMelo Ball is the MVP of the league. I feel like we see this quite a bit in the simulations. He is pretty good at basketball. Simbular is the DPOY. Himbular, man. He's out there going crazy. None of our guys were on All-NBA first or second teams this year, but we did see Wemby on the third team, and also we saw Simbular on the All-Defensive first team, and Wemby made All-Defensive second team. Wemby Spurs are also the first seed coming off of a championship, and it makes sense why. This squad is super good, and they've got a lot of depth on their roster, so they could definitely make some noise and try to repeat as NBA champions. The Lakers were the 4 seed, but they got Manu Bol not even starting. Why are they starting Nurkic over Manu Bol, who is an 89 overall? That makes no sense. And they have a first overall pick guard who they're not starting, and he's putting up ridiculous numbers. I don't know what the Lakers are doing. They've got a lot of talent, but I feel like they're not using that talent to the best of those guys' capabilities. Boban is on the A-seeded Blazers. The Blazers don't have Damian Lillard anymore, but Boban continues to hoop. He's holding it down. The Sacramento Kings are the 9 seed, and Mark Eaton has another around double-double type season. He just can't get that double-double. 9.9 points, bro, if you don't just get a couple more buckets so you can average that double-double. And then Simbular is on the 10-seeded Utah Jazz. The Mavericks have Luka and Cade, and they're the 14 seed. That doesn't make too much sense, but, you know, it's 2K. A lot of things that happen in this game don't make sense. Like Sean Bradley coming off the bench for Vucevic. This old man is really taking Sean Bradley's minutes. That makes no sense as well. George Muresan is here on the 6-seeded Indiana Pacers, averaging a double-double. His efficiency is absolutely garbage. 25.5% from the field. How do you do that? You are a center. Just shoot layups and dunk the basketball, bro. You are super tall. Chuck Nevitt is on the Pistons playing alongside AD, putting up some solid numbers. And the Pistons are an all-right basketball team. They're a play-in team. Taco Fall, he's playing some really good basketball in Toronto. After not even being on a roster for the first season, he's really picked things up. The Wizards suck. I'm sorry, Yao Ming. You're in a pretty tough spot, man. And that's pretty much it for looking at our guys and how they're doing. So let's go ahead and let's see. Can we see another one of our big men become an NBA champion this season? We've got another big man matchup. It's the Spurs and the Lakers. Manu Bol versus Victor Wembanyama. So we'll see if this series ends up being close. And yeah, the Spurs go ahead and win in 6. The Spurs are really good. And then we've got a game 7 between the Bulls and Magic. Remember, Sean Bradley's coming off the Magic's bench for whatever reason. Don't really know why, but here we go. Game 7 action. And the Magic are going to absolutely cook the Chicago Bulls, winning by 32 points. And Sean Bradley didn't put up too crazy numbers, but 12 and 12, good enough to get the job done. He averages right around the same numbers. And the Magic are moving on to the conference finals. So we've got 2 of our bigs in the conference finals. Wemby and Sean Bradley. We'll see if Wemby can make it back to the finals against a pretty good Thunder squad, and we'll see if Sean Bradley can take down the Milwaukee Bucks, who don't have Giannis anymore, and their team kind of sucks. So I don't know how they've made it. They were an 8 seed. They're making some type of crazy run. I don't know how they're doing it, but they go ahead and lose to the Magic in 5. And then the Spurs are going to advance. So regardless of who wins in this one, we are going to see one of our bigs crowned champion. Sean Bradley was able to get his way into the starting lineup, and Victor Wembanyama, of course, is the starting center for San Antonio. The Spurs are cooking early on, but the Magic are going to fight back, and it's a 2-2 series headed into game number 5. And in game 5, it's the reigning champions who come to play. Man, Victor Wembanyama and Jason Tatum is just a crazy duo that's going to be tough to stop, and the Magic didn't have enough for them in this game 5. Kyrie had a good game, but it wasn't enough, and in game 6, the Magic do bounce back, so we're headed to a game 7 with both teams' seasons on the line. The Spurs repeat as NBA champions, and it's Victor Wembanyama with 30 in game 7 to lead the way. 12 and 17 from Sean Bradley, but 3 for 13 shooting as a center is just not going to cut it. Sean Bradley's Magic are eliminated, and Victor Wembanyama wins the Finals MVP this time to go with his second NBA championship. And going into season number 5, I believe, Manute Bol and Yao Ming have teamed up. I didn't even realize these guys were hitting free agency yet, but a lot of them ended up moving teams. George Muresan is on the Clippers, and the Clippers, they're kind of bad, but he's playing with De'Aaron Fox, I guess. The Manute Bol and Yao Ming team up, though, is about to be absolutely crazy. I can't wait to see what that duo does. Sean Bradley is on the Philadelphia 76ers, playing alongside Joel Embiid. I think that Embiid can probably slide over to the 4. I don't think Bradley should play the 4. He's pretty tall, so we'll slide Embiid over to the 4 because I think you'd want both of those guys starting. And then in Washington, I guess we'll have Manute Bol play the power forward position alongside Yao Ming. That duo is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Seeing two of our big men team up is definitely going to be interesting. And as you can see across the board, these guys are improving in overall, and quite a few of them have decided to move on to their next teams, which I didn't expect this early on into the video. I expected them to be like restricted free agents and return to their rosters, but that isn't exactly what happened, as Mark Eaton ended up going to the Indiana Pacers, and he's playing with Luka Doncic and Jonathan Kuminga. So we'll have to watch out for that team. They could be contenders. And Simbular went to Brooklyn, where he's going to be playing alongside Jordan Poole and Mikal Bridges. So we'll see how this season goes. Luka's the MVP of the league. That's the Mark Eaton effect, man. He was getting a lot of assists off of dropping the ball down low to Mark Eaton, I'm guessing. And George Muresan was the DPOY. My goodness, those shooting splits were garbage. He was guarding himself on top of guarding the other team because, man, those shooting splits are wild. Wemby was All-NBA first team, not a big surprise. Yao made the third team, and Manute Bol made the All-Defensive first team. So did George Muresan, of course. I mean, he was the DPOY. And Chuck Nevitt ended up making the All-Defensive second team. Checking out how teams did around the league, who's on what rosters, and what teams are looking like. You can see that San Antonio, once again, was a dominant force in the Western Conference. They've been really good for the past couple seasons. Boban's Blazers are once again in the mix. Boban just continues to get better and better. And Jokic and Giannis ended up teaming up in Denver, so you'll have to watch out for those guys. I know that those two guys aren't our big men, but man, that's a crazy duo to see team up. And unfortunately, George Muresan is on the 15-seeded Clippers. Kawhi is only a 79 overall. This team is just absolutely cooked. George Muresan can't even shoot 30% from the field, man. I don't know what's going on. And the Washington Wizards, with Manute Bol and Yao Ming teaming up, it was just a recipe for success. What can you say, man? Yao and Manute, dominant forces leading the way for this team. Looking at the Detroit Pistons, you had the front court of Chuck Nevitt and Anthony Davis getting the job done for this squad as they were the 5th seed. Luka was the MVP this year, playing alongside Mark Eaton, who ended up having a solid season. He hasn't been too big of a scorer in this video, but speaking of scoring, we saw Sean Bradley take a big leap in terms of scoring once he joined the Philadelphia 76ers. Simbular ended up being on the 8-seeded Brooklyn Nets, where he continues to play great basketball. Taco Fall's just getting better and better season by season. But now it's time to get into another playoff run. Will Victor Wembanyama's run of dominance continue, or will another team take down the San Antonio Spurs in these playoffs? Well, the Spurs are at least going to get past the first round, and it looks like they might make it back to the conference finals. We're going to have to see, though. In Game 6, they get it done, so they're back in the conference finals. Then out east, we have the Detroit Pistons, who have Chuck Nevitt. They also have Anthony Davis, Lauri Markkanen. They've got a really solid squad. And then you've got the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Spurs. You're pretty familiar with both of these teams at this point because we've seen them face off quite a few times in this video. But the Thunder, they're out for revenge. They go ahead and sweep the Spurs. And then out east, it looks like the Pistons are going to go down as well. So none of our big men are able to make it back to the NBA Finals. Despite having a couple dominant runs from Wemby, it looks like that's wrapped. And we're going to head into free agency where Boban is one of the premier free agents, but it looks like he is going to be going back to Portland. Also, Chuck Nevitt is a free agent, but he doesn't have any offers as of yet. So we'll have to see where both of these guys end up going. After a few days of free agency, things are pretty much decided. Boban is going back to Portland, and Chuck Nevitt is going to Charlotte. Now, I'm not too familiar with what's going on in Charlotte, so let's go ahead and let's check it out. It looks like the Hornets have Anthony Edwards, so Chuck Nevitt just joined a pretty good squad. And going into another season, these guys are just getting better and better. Almost everybody is into the 90s at this point, and we might be seeing some of our players reach 99 overall soon, as Wemby is a 98 at this point. Luka Doncic is named the MVP of the league once again. Simbular is coming off of the bench for the Brooklyn Nets. Chuck Nevitt with the Charlotte Hornets ends up winning the Defensive Player of the Year. So a successful season for our big men. We weren't able to see anybody on the first team, but we've got Wemby on the second team and Boban on the third team. We've also got some of our guys on the defensive teams as well as we head into yet another NBA playoff run. Looking at the first seed, the Thunder have just been in the mix year after year, but the Blazers, they were the second seed this season as Boban continued to build upon the success he's had in his career. He's just getting better and better. The Spurs are also in the mix. They're the fourth seed this season. Not as good as usual, but hey, they still made it into the playoffs, so they've got a chance. This duo of Giannis and Jokic, I don't know how they're in the play-in. Also, how is Jamal Murray down to an 82 at this point? Regardless, you might have to watch out for them if they make it out of the play-in. George Muresan, he finally cracked 30% shooting. A historical season, a masterclass for him. The first seed are the Philadelphia 76ers with Sean Bradley and Joel Embiid in the front court. Plus, they have Lonzo Ball and Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt. The second seed is the Indiana Pacers, who have Mark Eaton and also Luka Doncic. Chuck Nevitt and the Charlotte Hornets, along with Anthony Edwards, are doing really well. As Chuck Nevitt is coming off of a DPOY season, it looks like him and Anthony Edwards were a good 1-2 punch. The Wizards, they weren't able to make the play-in this year, despite having the dominant front court of Manute Bol and Yao Ming. Pretty surprising to see that. And Taco Fall wasn't able to make it into the play-in tournament either this year, so that's disappointing to see. But without any more talking, let's get to it. NBA playoffs. Hopefully we can see another one of our bigs win an NBA championship. It looks like the Blazers and the San Antonio Spurs are in the mix out west, and the Hornets end up going down out east, but Mark Eaton and the Pacers are still in the mix out there. We've got a Spurs-Blazers matchup Wemby versus Boban. That should be an interesting one. And then we have a Pacers-Bulls matchup. So, what? The Pacers aren't starting Mark Eaton. They're starting Mo Wagner, bro. Why would you start him over Mark Eaton, who I think he's around like a 90 at this point? Why would they do that? That's pretty confusing, but we'll see if they can make it to the finals regardless. It looks like Boban is going to take down Wemby, and the Bulls are going to take down the Indiana Pacers. Don't know why the Pacers weren't starting Mark Eaton. That's pretty confusing, but let's see if Boban Marjanovic can get an NBA championship. The Bulls are up 2-0. The Blazers are going to take a game. They take two, so the series is all tied up. Pivotal game 5 here, and the Blazers came to play. A huge win, 20-point dub in game number 5 for the Portland Trail Blazers. They just have a lot of really good scoring guards alongside a dominant front court force in Boban Marjanovic, and that seems to be the recipe for success for them. And they're up 3-2 in the series. They're going to get it done in 6. Cason Wallace is the finals MVP. So no finals MVP for Boban, but he was putting up good numbers throughout the NBA playoffs. Now we're set for yet another season, and our guys are just continuing to establish themselves as premier players in the league. They continue to get better and better, and now we're going to see if one of them can get yet another NBA championship. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP of the league. The Thunder have just been so consistent throughout this video. They've been a really good team. Simbular takes home another 6th Man of the Year. Mark Eaton takes home a DPOY. Something we've seen a lot is our big men taking home those DPOY awards. I don't think we've seen this before, though. One of our bigs made All-NBA first team. That's Victor Wembanyama. Yao Ming made the All-NBA third team. He continues to put up elite scoring numbers and elite rebounding numbers. And then we've got Manu Bol and Mark Eaton also on the All-Defensive team as well, along with Chuck Nevitt. I mean, we just see our guys continually playing elite defense season after season. That's what I like to see. Now we're going to check out the NBA standings. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like I said, they've been in the mix year after year, but the Blazers are also up there. We'll see if they can repeat. The Spurs continually have just been in the mix season after season, and then a lot of other teams who don't have big men, so we don't really care. Yeah, no other teams I'm really too interested in. George Muresan, man, the Clippers are just cooked, bro. They've just been terrible year after year in this simulation. The Pacers are the number 1 seed, Mark Eaton and Luka Doncic here in Indiana. Then you've got the Washington Wizards. Yao and Manu Bol have a bounce-back season after a rough season last year. You've got Simbular coming off the bench for the Brooklyn Nets, but continuing to put up elite numbers. Sean Bradley alongside Joel Embiid. Embiid's starting to get older and older and regress more and more. Then here's a couple other basketball teams that we don't really care about, but we do have the Charlotte Hornets with Chuck Nevitt and Anthony Edwards barely making it in to the play-in tournament as a 10th seed. And then you've got the non-playoff teams. Unfortunately, Taco Fall has been struggling on the Toronto Raptors to make the play-in tournament. Unfortunate to see that. But at least we've seen quite a few big men be successful throughout this video in terms of team success and going out there and getting championships. We've seen Wemby and Boban do their thing throughout this video. We got the Wizards and the Indiana Pacers in the conference finals. Yao Ming versus Mark Eaton. You've also got Manu Bol on the Washington Wizards as well. And then out west, we don't really care about that matchup. Neither one of those teams have any of the big men from this video, but we do have a pivotal game 5 that we care about in this Wizards-Pacers series, and it's going to be the Indiana Pacers getting it done. Winning by 11 points. Luka Doncic, 29-17. Mark Eaton, 17-12. Kelly Oubre with 26. And Gigi Jackson had 21-11. Yao Ming 29-12 as his team goes down. And Manu Bol, oh man, his numbers have dropped crazily in the NBA playoffs, and the Pacers are going to get it done in 6. They're moving on to face the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder just continuing to their run of dominance. They've been crazy throughout this video. Let's see if the Pacers can take them down, though. Game 1 goes to Indiana. Game 2 goes to OKC. Game 3 goes to Indiana. Game 4 to Indiana. And the Pacers are going to take it. That's where I'm going to wrap it up. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Have a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe.